With the Federation of Families for Children's Mental Health. Our speaker today is Erin is a licensed professional clinical counselor in the state of North Dakota. She received her master's degree in counseling with an emphasis in rehabilitation in 2015 from the University of North Dakota. She has since worked in a variety of different settings, such as transitional housing programs for homeless and at-risk youth, intensive in-home and outpatient services. She is currently working at the Crisis Behavior Health and Training Center in Fargo and is an outpatient therapist. Erin works with children, teens, adults, and families utilizing CBT, DBT, and play therapy techniques. She has specialized training in structural family therapy and utilizes this with working children and families. Erin specializes in working with individuals with physical, developmental, and emotional disabilities of all ages. So you are very well rounded and cover a lot of things. So I will let you speak.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Get this going. So I'm just going to give you forewarning to start this. I didn't really want to use any other kind of photos. So it's my kids and then Dr. Angela Cavet's kids. And my daughter thought we did some videos together for this, and she thought she's like a YouTube star. So her 3-year-old brother, she was talking to him today, and she's like, I don't have time for you now, I'm a YouTuber. So she was pretty proud of herself for her I can't even say that, her contribution to this.
I have to ask, how old is this little lady?
My little girl, she'll be 6 on Thursday. So she started kindergarten. So now I'm learning how to be what a lot of parents have been doing since March, as being a teacher and a mom and doing a little bit of everything. Here in Fargo, she's going to hybrid school. So she goes to school a couple days and then she's home with us. So that's been a new adventure for our family, figuring all of that out. And then we have a 3-year-old. Who is quite the little boy. So Tanya already told you who I am. I can tell you a little bit about Chrysalis. So Chrysalis Behavioral Health and Training Center was founded by Dr. Angela Cavet. I was going to pull a picture, but I couldn't get it on here. Dr. Cavet her idea for Chrysalis is really to find people that have specialties, interest areas, a lot of passion, get them all in the same place as mental health professionals, and then it just has like everything you would want as a therapist, especially a therapist who works with kids. We have gardens for adults, we have gardens for kids. We can do a lot of mindfulness. I'm going to walk you guys through that. Some of the exercises that you can use as an adult or with your kids. They have playrooms, sand tray rooms, art therapy rooms. Unfortunately, I started in May and I haven't been able to use a lot of what we have because we've been doing it telehealth. But once we are back in the office, it's pretty amazing what we have here. So this is Jassy. How is COVID-19 affecting children and families? I tried to do some research on it and I found nothing conclusive, but you guys know that it's affecting people in a lot of different ways. We're going through, one thing that you have to remember is, as a society, as a world right now, we're going through a mass trauma event. I think about my grandmother. When she was alive, she was a little girl in the 30s, so she kept every little thing. And I thought it was like, what are you doing, Grandma? We'd have to go and throw away Hornbachers, grocery store, pastry boxes, because she would keep it all. And I didn't really get that, but her generation had to go through the mass trauma of living through the Great Depression and everything that entailed. If you look at other things in history, world wars, 9/11, JFK shooting, there's all these different events that create that trauma response. And what I've noticed is everybody's living like that's not happening, that we're not going through something really difficult right now. And we are. And I think we need to give ourselves, our children, teachers, other professionals, anybody that we kind of interact with, our dogs, some credit for what's going on, because this is a trauma. It's changing the way we live as society. I know I watch myself sometimes and I say, oh, I should be handling it this way or this way. But really, we have no playbook of how to raise kids during a pandemic. We have no playbook of how to be a parent, how to be a professional, how to be a human being during a pandemic like this. And we're all just trying. And there's a lot of information, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. And we need to give ourselves credit that that's happening and give ourselves a break through this and know that everybody's trying. We're all doing our best and we'll all get through this. But there's some things that are happening. We may have higher cortisol levels because of the heightened increase in stress and anxiety. We might not use all of our coping skills as well. We might be eating more. Whatever that is for you, it's okay. Recognize it, work on it, but you don't have to be perfect during a pandemic because that's just where we are at life. So that's Jassy when this was at the beginning of the pandemic when we put the hearts out, and I thought that was a kind of a good way of encompassing what was going on in our family. And for her, at 5 at that age, it was really hard to understand why she can't be. This was when we were still in lockdown, why she wasn't going to daycare and being with her friends, what was going on. She was getting a lot of different messages. And I think that was hard for her to try to figure that out. And when you think about it, these kids, 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, 35 years old, 50 years old, wherever you are, it's hard to figure out how to organize our thoughts about the pandemic in our brain. So it's hard as an adult to figure it out and to figure out how we should feel and how we should act for it. So it's going to be really hard for these kids to figure it out. So I think what you really need to do with your kids is, and there's been conflicting messages and information, but what I truly believe is you need to talk about it and normalize it. And this is with any difficult situation you're going through, is just being open about it. So here's my husband and my daughter talking, and I had them practice it because, you know, she's a YouTube star now. So she thought that I was taking a video of her. And she was saying, you know, it's so frustrating because I can't go to the movie theater and I want to go to the movie theater. And then my husband was validating her. So that's what kids need a lot, is just sitting down with them if there's something difficult, if it's a pandemic, if it's a death in the family, if it's a natural disaster, whatever is going on. If you talk about it and share your feelings and your emotions with your kids, it's going to make it easier for them too. So if you don't need to go into graphic detail about everything, but sharing that, you know, I'm frustrated, or that was really sad and hard for me when grandma passed away. And having those conversations, being open about it, that's going to make it easier for kids to talk about it. It's going to normalize it, and it's not going to make them feel like what they're thinking isn't important or valid, and those feelings. And when you're able to do that, it helps decrease some of that anxiety and those fears for little kids and teenagers and all kids really, and people. When you don't talk about it, some of that stuff comes out in behaviors, because every behavior is teaching us something. It's telling us something. So for Jassy, for my best little example there, because I'm with her every day, for her, she had this friend that named Lucy that they got to be really close a couple of weeks before the pandemic. And for her, everything's come back to Lucy and not being able to see Lucy. And when she went back to daycare, that Lucy wasn't there anymore. So she was just had a day where she was just a rough day, hitting her brother, yelling, screaming. And then when we got her calm enough to talk, I miss Lucy. I miss the way things used to be, because she didn't have a way to verbalize and get some of these things out. So that's an important thing to remember, that every behavior is communicating something. every behavior a child has, every behavior you as an adult have, is communicating something. And our jobs as adults, parents, providers, whatever we are in these kids' lives, is to help them learn how to communicate and help them self-regulate. So that brings me to self-regulation. It's the act of managing our thoughts and feelings to enable goal-directed actions, includes behaviors necessary for successful school, relationships, and workplace. So it's how we handle our emotions, handle our thoughts, handle difficult things that are going on around us. And then this piece is this co-regulation. It's a supportive process between caring adults and children, youth, or young adults that foster self-regulation or development. You see my daughter when she was about 1.5 years here. We think about this for babies. We know for babies that we have to comfort them, we have to hold them, we have to rock them back and forth. But I think the older kids get, the harder this is for adults to remember and to take into account, especially with, I don't know, I have no scientific research to back it up. I probably could find some, but I really truly feel developmentally 2 and 3-year-olds are a whole lot like 12 and 13-year-olds. And when our kids hit that teenage age, sometimes we forget this co-regulation piece and forget to comfort them because for whatever reason, it's harder to. They don't want to be hard. They're sassy, they're stinky, whatever it is that these teenagers that make it harder for us to do this with them is, but they still need that nurturing and that warmth from us. And you think about a 3-year-old, when they're throwing a tantrum, sometimes it's hard to want to pick them up and hold them, but that's what they need. So 13-year-olds is figuring out what they need at that age. It's how we structure the environment. It's that sleep, that eating, expectations, all of those kinds of things to help kids' bodies regulate. You think about it as an adult. In my office, I don't like to have bright lights on. It gives me headaches. I get cranky. If I go like a half an hour past the time I need to eat, I'm going to be I just don't feel right. I feel irritable. I know that those are things that make me feel better as an adult. Kids don't have that sense yet. And kids don't have that sense for a long time, even past when you think they do. So your teenagers, they still need that from you. They still need help structuring that environment. And they're going to push back at you because remember your 2 and 3-year-olds when they wanted to, my son, he threw the biggest tantrum because he didn't want me to hold his hand across the street. We just hold our hands across the street. It's safety. That's what you do. He screamed the whole way home, but you know what he did? We had to walk across the street again. He held my hand and screamed about it the whole way. He knew that we needed to do that. That's what your 13 and 14-year-olds are doing to you, even though it's not as cute on that 13 and 14-year-old as it was on your curly-haired toddler. So teach and coach self-regulation skills. And the best way to do this is by doing it yourself. Because as an adult, we need to self-regulate. And parenting is hard. Being a caregiver, being around kids, all of those things are hard. So it's important to show that to our kids. Teach them how to do it. Do it with them. And we do that in our house. Okay, we're all going to take a deep breath. And we work on that together. Because it doesn't stop. You don't need all these skills. It doesn't just, I'll start over. You don't stop needing self-regulation skills at 18. You're going to need it all throughout your life. So even as adults, sometimes you have to be reminded of how to do these things. And then if you can teach it with your kids, that makes it easier. And it humanizes it because it's not always easy to do. It's not always easy to stop and take a breath instead of just rattling off all of your frustrations. But it makes your life easier if you can do that. So we're going to talk about creating calm. For myself and my family, what we've created out of our family culture, being outside is our calm. For me, being in nature, this is at the headwaters and on the Mississippi, and we go here a lot because this is my calm, this is my kids' calm, is just being out in nature, Like you can see it in their faces, in my face. Well, I can't really see their faces, but their bodies. That's a calm, and that's something that we've incorporated into our family to help us reset. And that might not be what works for your family, but it's figuring out what that is. Is it playing games? Is it playing sports? Is it music? There's all sorts of things that might work for different families or even different family members, but it's figuring that out and then doing it. I'm going to give you guys some other examples of more therapeutic techniques you can use, but I really believe that a lot of families and individuals have these skills. They just don't think of it as coping skills. But it's those things that make you feel good. It's those things that make your body feel lighter, and it's figuring that out and then just doing it, just nurturing yourself. Kids are so good at this. Kids are really, really good, especially young kids, at figuring out what feels good to them and then just running with it. So they play, they sing, they dance, and they don't care who's looking. And then as we get older, I think we kind of forget about that. And we get so busy doing all of those things on our list of things to do, sometimes we think that those things that give us joy and give us peace aren't important, but they're just as important as brushing your teeth, taking medication, eating healthy. It's what keeps you healthy. It's what keeps those cortisol levels lower. Your physical health and your emotional health are so intertwined. You might think that it's like two different things, but it's not. They're very connected, and a lot of it is figuring out that joy, that calm, that peace, and things that make you feel good. And that's just as important as all those other health things that you can think of to have a healthy lifestyle. So this is Jessie's debut for her YouTube video. Let me know if you guys can hear this. Robin, I don't know if you need to I don't know if there's something on your end, but I'll put it on and then let me know.
We're hearing it all very well, I think. But no, we're not hearing the video. Is that what we're supposed to be hearing?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, we're not hearing the video. I'm sorry.
So it might be, so I guess I should explain what this video is. So when I was an in-home therapist for a few years, and I would make these calm down bottles with every family. And I made every single person in the family make one because it's important for the whole family to have a way to calm down. It's not just those kids that need to calm down, it's kids, if it was grandma living in the house, stepdad, uncle, aunt, whoever it was, everybody in the family I would make these with. So I don't know, you'll probably want the sound. I think it will be on your end. Let me see.
It is not on my end. I think it should be up top for you on your share screen.
Yeah, there it is. I'm just not used to being on the other side of things. So we'll start this out again.
Whoa, look at all that.
Now we can hear it.
All right, what's the next color, Jossie?
We are gonna do this one. I'm a little tough here.
Okay.
We're just gonna flip it open. This one's a little more sturdy than I.
Oh, here you go. I just gotta get started.
Something you need to run to help you the case because this can be very, very hard.
Tell me when.
That looks like enough.
Okay, what should we do next?
I like this color.
Okay.
We are going to.
Do you want to try to squeeze, babe?
I'm squeezing it. might need Grandma to help you just in case you need.
Can Mom start? Okay, now you start.
Okay, I'll start the rest.
I'll hold on to it. I think when you hold it into the bottle like that, honey, it makes it harder for you to squeeze it. So try holding it just right above there. Do I need to hold it and you to squeeze? Squeeze. There. Okay. What should we do next? Is that it?
First, we're
Or
going
do
to
you
do
want-
some of these
Okay. But first, let's shake it around a little bit, Joss.
to get it all mixed up in the middle.
Can you shake it?
As you can see, it's very interesting here. It's really glittery. It looks like those are sprinkles in there.
Mm.
Now we're going to add some of
So this just a little bit first. And that's going to help push down some of that glitter glue. And Jossie, I will put in the glitter. Okay, honey?
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And you just tell me when, okay?
All right.
Because this gets kind of messy. Tell me when.
Sometimes these can be very messy, so I'm having my mom to do it
When.
now. Now it's kind of like a glitter looking.
Is there any other colors I should put in there?
Maybe this.
The purple.
Yeah. Glitters can be very tricky for kids.
Well, let's put some more of this glue in and watch it go down.
See
It's
how
going to
that,
be a big glue. It's gonna, oh, look at that.
oh. As you can see, sometimes there can be a big loop.
You shake it.
But shake it.
Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it. Shake it.
And sometimes you need to shake it a little bit.
How about these? We've got these over here too. We got lots of glitter. How about let's set Mom, because this is kind of hard, and Mom's probably gonna make a mess.
Sometimes things like this can be very kind of hard.
There we go.
And I get another one.
All right. Anything else on this one? Those are purple mermaids.
So we ended up going through and making this whole bottle. It gets kind of long, but I have one here. It's not the same one, but what I have people do with it is you shake it. And when you're done shaking it, what you do is it's a mindfulness practice, is just watching all of that glitter fall down. And what I tell kids, I do this with adults in my practice too. Anybody who comes to see me, we're usually making glitter bottles at some point, if they can handle the glitter, is you're having the glitter be those angry thoughts, worried thoughts, frustrated, all of that negative emotions are the glitter, are the sparkles, or whatever you guys decide to put in it. And then you're watching as that glitter, those sparkles, they fall to the bottom. And as that glitter falls to the bottom, those negative thoughts, those worries, anxieties, frustrations, all of that falls to the bottom too. And that's what can be really good about those glitter bottles. And the cool thing when I did in-home is sometimes, the kids had it up in their rooms, but you would see Mom sitting at the table using those bottles as a way to help them calm down. And this has been really helpful to me working with adults as well as kids at explaining how to just let some of those thoughts go. You're not completely changing them. You're acknowledging that they're there, but they're getting less and less intense, less up in your face. Okay, this is another one. So now I'm getting into my mindfulness. This is take 5. And this is one of my kind of go-to relaxation exercises. So I have a picture of my son here. We were camping, and I think this is a perfect way to do this. And what we're going to do is kind of pretend we're at this campfire and go through 5 things, your 5 senses. So things that you see. I would notice the trees, the orange of the fire, the wood, the rocks. When we're there, there are a lot of bees, so I might have noticed that too. But I can hear, so the buzzing of the bees, the crackling of the fire. I hear my kids laughing. I hear people splashing into the lake below. What you can feel. So you can feel that rod that you're holding for the marshmallows. You can feel the air. It might be hot, it might be sweaty. All of those different, you can feel the bug spray on you, smell bug spray, you can smell the fire, the trees, the flowers, and then tasting the marshmallows. And this is something that I have people do in my office, and this is something that I do. If I'm in a moment that I'm really enjoying, I go through the take 5, and then it's a moment I can go back to, especially when I'm stressed out. This also is a good grounding technique. So what I mean by that is when things get really overwhelming, if you're feeling like you just can't handle things, your anxiety's tough, if you are having a trigger, trauma trigger or anxiety trigger, and doing this take 5, just looking around your room, looking around where you're at, nobody's going to know what you're doing, but it can help ground you and get you back to where you need to be, so those emotions aren't just right there in your face. So I'm going to first do a deep breathing exercise with you guys, more for adults and teenagers, and then this one that my kids are doing is more for little kids. So if you can join me, I can't see that you're actually doing it, so I hope you'll do it. If not, remember to do it with other people. But you take a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly. And what you want to do is take a deep breath. Oh, I see Robin doing it. In through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose. And as you're exhaling out, I want you to exhale those negative emotions, that stress, that anxiety, anger, all of those negative emotions. Blow it out on the exhale. And again, goes in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then whenever you're ready to, you can come back. Just open up your eyes. This can be a really good thing to do in a lot of different situations. This is something that I try to do in the beginning of the day. Traffic hasn't been so bad lately in Fargo, but I grew up in the cities, and this is something I do before I do drive in busy traffic in the cities, because that is like a big anxiety trigger for me, is busy traffic. So figuring out what those things are. Sometimes when my kids are really just having tough days, I do that breathing, and then it helps ground me to help them, because we can't help somebody else if our anxiety is over the top, or anger. What we have to do as parents, caregivers, adults, professionals, whatever our role is get in that good place. Do that deep breathing, do whatever that relaxation, calming exercises are for you, and then go and help your kids. So this is pizza breaths that they're doing. And this is something that we do, and I do this in my office, and I have a pizza game and a pizza song, and it's like one of the tricks that I pull out of my bag all the time as a therapist. So if you have a young kid that ever comes to see me, we will be doing pizza breaths. And let me make sure I have the computer sound on.
We're going to do pizza breaths today. Are you guys excited?
Yes, we are very excited. And I don't want to go by my iPhone. Well,
Okay.
we have lots of stuff.
So now, when we make pizza breaths, we're going to roll out the dough. Show me how you roll out the dough.
I'm making a rectangle pizza today, but I decided to make just a circle pizza then.
Okay. Now, what are we going to put on top of it? Should we put tomato sauce?
Put apple tomato sauce.
We're going to put apple tomato sauce.
Yum, yum. I know.
And then what else should we put on our pizza?
Pepperoni.
Put some pepperonis.
And then some cheese.
Put some cheese on there. You're gonna put cookie dough on there?
No.
Strawberries?
No. Let's put some mushrooms and mozzarella.
Put some mushrooms and mozzarella.
Okay, now some more pepperoni and cheese. Now put it in the oven.
Now put it in the oven. Now count down from 10.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Beep, beep, beep. Now we gotta put our oven mitts on.
Oh, put your gloves on, it's hot. Now take it out and put a breath on it.
But smell it. It smells so good. Now breathe on it because it's too hot. Now take another big smell. And yep, Anders, yep, get your gloves on. Now smell, Anders, smell it. It smells so good. And blow. Now you're ready to eat it.
So as you can see, there's ways we can adapt this from adults, what I did with you guys, and then with young kids, the other thing that I do for really little kids that they can start, I think Anders was like 9 months starting to do it. We do our horse lips, so we go, and that can help with that breathing. But for us, I was doing that with kids a lot. I was working with younger kids for a while in a clinic. And then I would like walk down the hall after a stressful day and be doing it and be like, oh, yeah, maybe that's not the best thing to do. Candles, so we do birthday cakes. I do the same kind of thing that I do with the pizza, and we make a birthday cake and then blow out the candles. And it's fun with it. You're redirecting kids, you're getting them involved in the play, and then you're also teaching the deep breathing. That counting down can be a grounding technique. I worked with this lovely little boy, and he was so smart. He would count, I worked in this big clinic, and he would count all the doors. Every time before we go into my office, we go down the hallways and count all the doors. And that was his way to ground himself and get himself ready for therapy. He'd get to the right place. Then he'd come in, and if he was a little more anxious, then he would count all my toys. He'd line them up and he'd count them. And then once we did that, we could go on with our day. And that's wonderful things to do with your kids. And kids, I love working with kids because they come up with a lot of this, and then they can help us as adults. It's like, oh yeah, that counting is really helpful. And I thought back, and I thought, I used to be a swimmer, and I used to count the ceiling panels or the floor tiles in the pool when I was swimming, and that was my way of grounding myself. So kids have a lot of ways of teaching us good lessons, and we can make this fun. It's not just yelling at them, do your breathing, do this. There's a lot of fun ways they can do it, and they don't even realize. I mean, Jessie kind of does now because she's 6 and too smart for school, but for the most part, they don't really realize once you get going with this what's going on. It's just fun, and then it helps them regulate their bodies. And then as you're watching them enjoy themselves, as a parent, you start loosening up and you start getting more comfortable. And then by the end of it, everybody's laughing and enjoying themselves. And that moment of stress, anger, anxiety, whatever it is gone, and you're moving on.
We're going to do pizza.
Okay. So another piece that we need to work on is just that connections. And this is what I was talking about with finding that joy. It doesn't have to be these big things. You don't need to make a calm down bottle that helps. You don't need to do pizza breaths. You don't need to go through a book and see what a therapist would do with your kids. But it's finding those things that you enjoy. This is Dr. Kavit and her older daughter making cookies. So when I think back to some of the most calming, nurturing, relaxing times in my childhood, it was baking with my mom. It was cooking with my grandma. It was going on bike rides with my dad. It was those things that we just do that are part of our routine. And those are things I've seen a lot of families when they're really struggling, they might not do as much. Or if their kids are really struggling, they might not stop to make cookies or stop to go on bike rides. But those are the things that help heal families. I'm not as much of a behavioral therapist, so I would go in and it was like people wanted to have, and not that these things are important, but people would want to have, okay, we need to make all these behavioral charts and do all of these different things, which can be helpful. But what I saw as being the most helpful is when a family would come together and make games together, play games together, do art together, cook together, giggle, laugh. Those are the things that help build connections. Those are the things that help heal. Those are the things that are going to really, what kids need. Like if you think back to your childhood and think back to those things that just built you up, just made you feel good, there's probably some of these acts of connections that you did with adults. It was that cuddling with your grandma and reading books. Those just everyday life things that help build us up. So this is more geared towards adults. This is this whole idea of giving yourself grace. This is that whole idea of it's okay. We're going through a really difficult time. We're trying to parent in a difficult time. We're trying to be professionals. We're trying to have careers. We're trying to have relationships during a pandemic, during this time of uncertainty that we've never experienced, our generation. I can think maybe our grandparents had some similarities, but it's not something we know. So give yourself grace. Be kind to yourself. We need to care for ourselves. It's so easy. We build into our kids. We nurture our kids. We do all of these things for our kids. But the number one thing is that you have to be doing that for yourself to be a good mom, to be a good dad, to be a good provider, to be a good whatever your role is. You need to give back to yourself and give yourself a break. This is something that for myself, I've been really working on this year because I think I had all these expectations of what a mom is, what a professional is. And now I'm just giving myself a break and saying, you know what? It's okay. This is the way things are right now, and that's going to be okay. And once I was able to give myself more grace, I was able to enjoy my kids more. We were able to do fun things together. It was easier for me to help them with that co-regulation piece because I wasn't being as hard on myself. So, like I said, parents need that nurturing too. We give it to our kids. We need to give it to ourselves, give it to each other. Have those nights where you call one of your girlfriends or your other mom friends, dad friends, and just talk. Just hang out. Just build each other up. Because I think about it, I'm really good at building my friends up. We're all really good at building each other up. We need to do that for ourselves. So if that means you have a friend that you know that every time you talk to, you just can't stop laughing, or that you're able to share things and connect, it's doing those things and not feeling guilty about doing them, just doing it because that's what's going to keep you healthy and that's what's going to give you keep your family more healthy. So at Chrysalis, we're here. We have openings right now. We're doing all telehealth. I have openings a lot of evenings, during the day, whatever works for you guys. We have wonderful therapists here. We go throughout the whole age lifespan, so very young kids to older adults. And I think people sometimes are afraid to go to counseling and I don't know, think it's a scary thing or you're calling defeat, but it's just learning how to build yourself up, learning how to give yourself grace, learning how to use these skills, to have calm down skills, to be able to think through these emotions and have somebody else be there for you, help support you, and help walk you through things and process what's going on in your life. And it's not a bad thing. And it's so helpful, and it's not as scary as I think a lot of people think it's going to be. It's good for adults, it's good for kids, and there's a lot of wonderful providers at my clinic in Fargo, in North Dakota, and we're here and we want to work with you. So I'm going to open that up for any questions people may have for me.
I was just going to. So there was a question about that you just said about Fargo and North Dakota. So should I look where that went?
It says, even though you're in Fargo, do you accept clients from all over the state now that you are in doing telehealth?
Yes, we do. We're doing telehealth. The only thing will be right in the future, depending on insurances, if they continue to provide for telehealth or not. Right now, we're not really looking at it stopping anytime soon. So we are accepting clients from all over the state. And I know that some of those smaller areas, more rural areas, it can be really hard to find a provider. So we are available for that.
I don't see any other questions. Do you, Robin? Sorry,
No, I don't see any other questions. A lot of people were very excited about the information, and we're thanking you for sharing it. JC had already done the breathing technique before, so she definitely knew about that, so that's good to know. That's about all that I've had. I'll also be posting in there a survey link that you can go on to and let us know what you thought of this session. Feedback definitely helps us know, what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong, and helps us to be better for the next year. And who knows if we're going to be still online again next year again. So definitely helps us out. Any other questions for Erin? You can unmute yourself to ask the questions or type them in the chat.
It's not really a question, but I think this was a really helpful session. I think you had a lot of really good ideas. And I don't know if you're seeing all the chat, but I'm a member of a team. I'm the member of the team that's working on a toolkit, and we're using a lot of these same things we're putting them into our little toolkit to hand out to parents, and it's just kind of nice to see that, people are using that and that it works.
Yeah, and these are just kind of the things that I use a lot with my families and kids, and they're quite effective. So.
And I do the breathing thing a lot too. I tell people to breathe all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do some breathing. I take breaks. So I have to take breaks. Like I have to just, like if I start feeling something overwhelmed, I just have to stop, and then I'll come back to it when I know that I'm in a different space that's going to allow me to feel that frustration, but yet still do some more creative like ways to deal with it versus like
Yeah. And one of the things I really like doing with families, and this is something that anybody can really do with families, or you can incorporate it into your own families, is I have worksheets on it, but you wouldn't necessarily need a worksheet. It's just learning what everybody's triggers are. So those things that, for me, like, I don't want to be touched. I'm angry. I just need to, I need to take a break. But my daughter, she needs to be hugged. Like, the first thing she needs when she's upset needs to be hugged. My son's like me. He does not. He was a year and a half and he'd put himself in timeout. We wouldn't say anything. He'd just walk to his door, pout a little bit, stomp his feet, come out, and then he'd be fine. So I think it's really important for families and coworkers and anybody that's going to spend a lot of time together to figure out what those triggers are, what they need from other people, and what kind of things each person in that group needs to feel calm, to relax, because it's going to be different for different people.
Definitely. Okay, any other questions for Erin?
No, but I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for your time. Thanks for coming
Yes.
on.
You too. Thank you.
I always love hearing what you guys are doing. So, and I hope to get back over there when things get more available to do that. And
Yeah, thank you for inviting us, or me, and it will be really exciting. I think once everything opens up more and we can do all sorts of amazing things, and everybody's gonna be so ready for it too.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'd like to also say thank you to all those people that joined us today. Appreciate having you here.
Yes. Thank you to everybody, and thank you, Erin, for being here. And I think we can call it a day, and everybody have a great afternoon.
all right. Thank you.
Everyone.